Am I here? Yeah, I'm here.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Why is he moving around? I feel like...
I don't know. Put on your
Whoa!
headset. Topic 2. Going into topic 2, I want to talk a little bit about remasters. I'm sure you've been seeing a lot that the Nathan Drake collection is coming out tomorrow, actually, and it's been getting pretty good reviews. They took it to Blue Point Studios, who's responsible for a lot of different remasters that happen. And apparently, it's running really well, and a lot of people are visiting the Uncharted series for the first time. Like myself, I'll be playing those games for the first time, and then some people are visiting games like Uncharted 1 with completely redone. They even redid some of the textures. They're putting new shooting mechanics in, and I guess they're kind of bringing it up to speed with the other series. I don't know what the hell, because I didn't play any of them, so I don't know what the difference was. But that kind of got me to think. That makes sense that they would remaster Far Cry. That they would remaster Uncharted. But there's been a lot of games in the last couple of years since 8th Gen has launched that I'm like, what the hell? Why is this remastered? So I wanted to talk a little bit. What do you think constitutes a remaster? And what do you think? What do you think that studios should look for when remastering a game? Like, what are the factors? Because I've seen a lot of strange, what is Devil May Cry 4 was remastered, Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. So yeah, kind of wanted to dig your, because Jordan, you got, The Last of Us remastered, even though you already had The Last of Us.
Right. The way that I would put it, and this is going to be a blanket statement, but I think it's how accurate to how I feel is, I personally think that the only time a game should be remastered is if, 1, it was a classic or a classic in the making, and 2, if it was somehow held back by the original platform that it was launched on, or, if there's been subsequent ways to make it better and it's worth doing. Then Last of Us being an example of that, I think. Especially because PS4 being the dominant platform now, and where it was Xbox in the past, a lot of people didn't get to play it, so it worked for you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for me, barring a couple of circumstances, the two things I look for when I'm considering a remaster is either age. Is the game old enough to where it's 20th anniversary edition, or kind of like what they're doing with Final Fantasy VII? Or pedigree, this is a really, really important game that, like you said, was probably held back by last gen, or somebody missed it last gen. Because something weird that came out recently is that the install base of this gen, surprisingly, a lot of them missed 7th gen altogether. Not even just like me, who didn't play PS3, but didn't play either of them. So some of these remasters make sense. But you have a game like you said, for me, Grand Theft Auto 5, which looked really good on the PS3 and 360, but was definitely held back. And then you look at the next-gen version, and it's like, oh man, this looks great. Then Rockstar comes out and says, well, this is actually what we always intended it for it to be anyways. But we didn't know when it was going to be coming out, when 8th Gen was going to be coming out, so we put it on the 360. Yeah.
Well, the way I see it, too, is like how I said about classics, modern classics. A good example of another recent one, I think, is Dishonored. That's a really good example of one that I have no problem with that being remastered. I'm probably going to get it. But then there's one, like you said, Sleeping Dogs. That was a cult hit at best. I don't particularly know anybody who actually played it.
Well,
and
I don't know.
So it just seems like it might not even be a good use of the studio's time and money, if I'm real.
No, see, this is the thing, though.
Ethan,
go for it, Chris.
Or was it Ethan?
I was just gonna say that I don't know. I feel like there's certain there's certain games that I feel like I don't really want to shit on remasters, because there's definitely people out there that I think appreciate them no matter what and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you missed a game,
yeah, for sure, yeah. I don't know, the one I really didn't see the point in was the Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah, that
one was the one that seemed so.
I was gonna use that as an example too.
I don't know. I did not see the point at all.
That one made
here's the thing. That's a good game. That's a good game, but I wouldn't call it a classic. You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah.
Though, to be honest, I actually disagree with the Dishonored thing. I get you didn't play the game, so like it's good, you know, that you get to have it to play, but I don't really think that necessarily constituted a remaster. Like, it doesn't. The remaster doesn't even look that good compared to the previous
so
one.
you're essentially trying to like delineate like remasters from just like a port, right? That's kind of what you're getting at.
Well, no, just re-releases, remasters, whatever you want to call them. Games that are released on this gen that were on last gen and calling it like definitive or, you know, ultimate edition, whatever.
Well,
It's just
I suppose then it comes down to like effort on part of the studio, like how hard did they actually have to work to get it to a point on the new system? Because if Dishonored doesn't look that much better, then I almost be tempted to just say that that's a port from the PC.
But it's like, okay, I look at, okay, so but even then, here's an example that I guess I would think of is, you also do have to take in mind is how beloved is this game, and like how much pedigree does it have. You take a game like The Last of Us, which I'm just going to be honest, and I love that they did the remaster. That game really doesn't look that much better on PS4. It's running at a higher resolution with better frame rate, but like everything else basically looks the same. Granted, that game looked freaking awesome on PS3, which is probably why it looks so good on PS4. But anyways, that made sense based on the fact not only on how good the game is, but because a lot of people missed that on PS3. That was the tail end of PS3. You know, a lot of people, like myself, didn't end up getting a PS3 because of the announcement of the PS4, and I was like, well, screw it. You know, there's no point. But then you got a game, I think, like Sleeping Dogs or like Tomb Raider or like Devil May Cry, or even Borderlands, to be honest, where if they made it look ridiculously better, like leagues better than it did last gen, people are still going to say, well, who cares? It's just you know what I mean? It's not like a game that's super beloved, and like there's going to be, every game has its fans, but it's not going to be like, I think a good example of one that did it right for me and for actually just a lot of people is like the Master Chief Collection, for example. They took Halo 2 and it looks ridiculously different. Like you know what I mean? Like, I mean, Chris, you have the game, so you definitely know. But the Halo 2 version of Master Chief Collection is just absolutely.
Yeah. Well, just as a side note, if you kind of use the musical analogy in terms of what a remaster is in like music, then it's kind of interesting because a remastered music, you know, is basically just, they didn't change the original recording at all. They just kind of like polished it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting because what you're describing almost sounds more like remakes than remasters to me.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, because, like, a remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to literally be ground up, completely new game.
Right, but didn't
100%.
the Halo 2 Remaster use the same gameplay engine as Reach?
Halo 2 Remaster, all they did was change the textures.
Okay.
They cleaned up the textures.
Yeah, we're running into some gray areas again here. But...
Well, there's no point. I mean, I'm not really trying to get into, like, what constitutes a remaster. What I'm trying to say is, re-release, remaster, the blanket term, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't matter. What matters is what constitutes a title coming out again. So, like, that's all I'm trying to get at.
What makes it deserve it, basically?
Yeah, what makes it deserve a remaster. Right, and should we be remastering it anymore? We are well into 8th gen. 7th gen is all but dead at this point. Why aren't we just focusing on new games?
Discontinued in New Zealand, by the way.
Yeah. Fuck the 7th gen. We don't need them anymore.
That was today.
Oh, they discontinued it?
Fuck you guys.
They discontinued PS3.
You still like 7th gen? Fuck you. Wilson. You still like it? Fuck you. Okay.
Ethan, tell it to the camera.
Hey, watch it.
We don't need.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying. I don't care about like the terminology, like how we do with open world. Like what? Who cares? It's what? Why are these titles coming out like Sleeping Dogs, like Devil May Cry, like games that nobody played last year because nobody cared about them?
Well,
like,
the thing about it is, like I said, it's a business decision, really, as is everything that these studios do. But really, it's like they kind of The Last of Us is a good example of this. It's basically like, they may have done it anyway, but I'd like to think they noticed that there were a lot of people like you who didn't play it because they didn't have a PS3, and now that the PS4 is so far ahead, they said, oh, we can probably sell a shit ton of these copies.
Well, Andrew House said that they did that. Like, they did that before the PS4 was even launched. They had a plan to make it, and he said that exact thing. Like, they were in an interview, and he, quote, said, this is for Xbox 360 players.
Yeah.
Like he said, there's really no point in buying it if you have a PS3.
I didn't anyway.
Well, I know.
I liked it. I liked it enough. But that's another story.
But yeah, they were like, it's for people who didn't play last year. But it's like, I can't
Right.
think of people who didn't play Devil May Cry last year because, oh man, I missed that game, because I had a 360 or a PS3, or oh man, I missed it because of all that. No, people didn't buy it because they're like, this is a really niche game. Like, why, you know what I mean? Devil May Cry players will play it, and Slash 'em Up, fans will play it, but
Maybe.
I don't know.
Didn't.
I think this remaster fad, and that's what it is, a fad, is slowly going to be dying. And that's, again, not to say like games that are classics that are getting remastered. Like I said, like I definitely think I am willing to put money on the fact that 343 will do a Halo 3 anniversary, which they redo the textures and everything. And you have games like like the Grim Fandango remaster that they did.
Yeah.
I don't like that game, but that was basically updating it to today's standards.
On that same note, actually, one that I didn't think of until just now is that whole Oddworld remake that they did.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. But that's something that's cool.
That's a good example.
That's a beloved game from a long time ago that's now brought into a new light. And that's like, oh, wow, this looks so much different that it doesn't matter what the title is. That looks so completely different.
Yeah, because I would never have played the old one at this point, you know what I'm saying? Like, now that I'm aware of it, I would never go back. Well, maybe, but it's just so dated. But now, it's the same game. It plays the same from what I can tell. But it looks nice, and it's pretty fun actually.
Oh yeah, no, I like that game a lot. It was really good. But I don't know. I'm hoping the fad dies off soon because I want studios to focus on new games rather than.
Which Oddworld was it? I'm just curious.
Oh, it was
tasty. Well,
yeah,
it was Abe's Adventure or Abe's Odyssey was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Abe's Odyssey was on PS1, and then they remastered it or remade it basically into new and tasty.
Did they ever redo Stranger's Wrath? That one?
They had a PS3 port, but it was just up-res.
Yeah, it was just a port. It wasn't like because this was they retextured the game, they redid the cutscenes, and they did instead of like frame by frame, they did a scrolling levels.
You know what I'm talking
about? Yeah, it was way
No, I can get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was. I mean, that was great, but yeah, I'm hoping it dies off soon. Now that being said, going to guess what we originally talked about, Uncharted makes sense, complete sense. That is a flagship. Just like to me, honestly, Gears of War Remastered makes sense to me too. Flagship titles that are, I guess the pinnacles of the different consoles. They do make sense to me because I didn't play the other Uncharted games because I came from 360, and I'm hearing from a lot of, I know from a fact from people who've told me that these games are some of the best action-adventure games of the last gen, if not of all time. And with Uncharted 4 coming out, I want to, play the games before I play 4. And, Gears is such an important franchise, I guess, for Xbox. And the Gears of War Remastered, the Ultimate Edition, use the engine that they're going to be using on Gears 4. Like, that was a completely, the graphics engine was completely different. So, yeah, I guess flagships and stuff make sense. It's just these random little titles that I'm just like, what the hell, man? Like, why?
Well,
why?
Yeah, it's interesting because the thing about those two
implying
is
that Dishonored's a little title.
No,
that was what I'm saying though is but Tomb Raider wasn't a little title either. It wasn't, but
that's what I was just about to say is Devil May Cry and Sleeping Dogs were not low budget indie games. They just didn't sell well. And so I have to imagine that what they were thinking was maybe we'll be able to capitalize on some of the new kind of, if you want to say, next gen fervor, right? People are all stoked about stuff, so they want to go out and buy stuff. Oh, I didn't play this, but I heard it was good. I don't know actually how well that worked. I'd be curious to see
they didn't even, the thing is, we're getting into territory now where they don't even look different, dude. Sleeping Dogs really didn't look that much different. God, dude, did you see God of War 3 remastered?
I was mad about that one, actually.
It was God of War 3. The game was God of War 3 up-resed.
Because God of War 3 ran at 60 FPS, if I remember right. It ran at 60 FPS on PS3. That game to this day... Oh, let's go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, it didn't look great. In reality, the only remakes I really like are the Pokemon remakes because they know how to do it.
Well, I was going to say, the thing about God of War 3 is to this day, I still
God of War 3 ran on 30, by the way. It ran at 30.
Did it? Okay. Yeah. To this day, I think God of War 3 is still a amazing technical achievement. The fact that they got that game to look that good on PS3
It still looks good, dude. It still looks good.
Yeah, it's crazy to me.
Yeah,
But-
no, that game, and then to me, that's when I look at, and Dishonored, to be honest with you. Now, granted, like, I don't blame you for wanting to buy it if you know, didn't play it on last gen. It's $40 for that and all the DLC. Yeah, go ahead. That's kind of like a Game of the Year edition. That being said, these are cash-ins, and they're obvious cash-ins. They're just
regardless of who it is,
these are I mean, some, obviously all are cash-ins in the sense that they're looking to make money, but there's some that I don't necessarily think they went into it with that intention. Like, I don't think they did the Master Chief Collection thinking, let's screw everybody and make money off releasing Halo, because, like, I mean, the game was... Let's not go into, like, the multiplayer. That's a different beast. But in terms of what the game actually is, it, is a... Two of them are rebuilds, and the other two are... Like, Halo 4 almost looked... Running at 60 frames, 1080p, looked almost like an Xbox One game. So it's like... I don't know. I think it's all about the heart that's behind it, and I think people are speaking with their wallets, because Sleeping Dogs barely sold any copies at all. Definitive Edition still is trying to sell copies. They're finally just releasing that on Games with Gold, and I'm expecting on PS Plus soon. So yeah, I don't know. I hope it ends. I want new games.
I think it will. I think it will. Man, we're coming up on 2 years of next gen current gen. Excuse me. Right now, so
yeah, in a few weeks. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think what's going to happen is.
Wait, what did you just say, Jordan? Say that again.
We're coming up on 2 years of having the new systems already. Pretty crazy. Actually.
I need to get my new PS Plus thing.
Anyway, but yeah, so it's kind of crazy to me. But the thing that I'm thinking is, two things are going to happen probably concurrently. They're either going to run out of games to remaster that people will actually buy, or people are going to be so stoked on everything new that's coming out that they won't care. It's probably going to happen at the same time.
Well, and you have to look at something else that's big, that's huge. I was reading an article about it. Xbox One introducing backwards compatibility changes a lot of this.
It really does.
Because with the absence of backwards compatibility, it was like, well, you want to play this game, then you have to get the definitive edition, or you're not going to be able to play it, if you didn't own the system. But with backwards compatibility, like, granted, it's not every game, but each week they're releasing, like, tons of new games that can do backwards compatibility. That changes a lot, man. Like, a lot of people, if they didn't own a 360 or a PS3, can now just go to GameStop, get the game for $5 or $10, and you know what I mean? Actually have an experience that's up-res to 1080p, because the 360 backwards compatibility on Xbox One actually upscales it to 1080p, which is pretty cool, actually. But that changes a lot, man. And PS Now was a failure, so let's not mention that.
That's another topic.